Good evening, people. Welcome to episode 3 of Blue Beat Radio. I am your host, Star Demon, and tonight I am bringing you fundamentals. This is the fundamentals episode. So, I think, as every time, we're going to have our introductions for everyone. Dreiko, if you please.
Hello everyone, I am Dreiko. My name is Bang. I live in South California. Nice to see you again.
Mr. LordKnight.
Hi, my name is LordKnight. I'm from New Jersey.
Okay. Huey.
Huey, 253 from Washington.
All right, and I am Star Demon, and of course I play Light Sheet, and I'm from New York. So, tonight we are talking about fundamentals, and this is a fairly difficult topic to talk about, but we're going to get through it, and we're going to discuss a lot. And while it may not be comprehensive in the hour some odd that we actually have, I hope that we can kind of dispel some rumors, get rid of a lot of confusion, and hopefully leave our listeners with some actionable items to go out and try and work on and do. So I think the most important question that is kind of two-sided here, what are fundamentals and what aren't fundamentals? I think there's actually a bit of confusion about this. So if each of you could kind of explain and what are and what aren't fundamentals?
Okay, I guess I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
So fundamentals are essentially the kind of, let's say, foundation for your play. So fundamentals are even simpler. Fundamentals are the foundation for your play in any fighting game, period. Like the skills that you can use that will work in any fighting game and are not restricted to a specific one. What they aren't are system mechanics, let's say, or basic strategies or something you would use in like a specific game. They're just general kind of abstract concepts that always work or generally work and are generally effective in all games. That's what I think.
Okay. Dreiko or Huey?
Okay. Fundamentals is basically knowing when to do certain things that, like LordKnight just said, are applicable in every fighting game. Things such as blocking and attacking are basically the most fundamental of the fundamentals. You need to be able to recognize the situation from being one where you should press the button to being one where you should not and you should defend. Beyond those, we have basic movement such as dashing, we have recovery in some way, be it in the air or on the ground, and we have grabs. That's I would say the most fundamental of fundamentals.
Okay, Huey?
I personally think that fundamentals is basically all the different skills and traits and thoughts that make up your judgments when you're playing a fighting game, like should I do this in this situation? Like the difference between like weighing like risk and reward and trying to play footsies, those kind of things make up fundamentals. And I think things that aren't really fundamental are just like tricks that only work a couple times, more like gimmicks, I guess, would be not fundamentals, but you can have bad fundamentals too, I guess. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so kind of to summarize what you guys said, basically we're talking the most basic skill sets that you can bring to a fighting game, and it doesn't have to be any particular one, but if it's some sort of idea that you can carry from game to game reliably, so not necessarily specific system mechanics, just what is recovery, what is what are active frames, what are things that pretty much apply to every game type, then we can call that fundamental.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So on to the next thing. We have there's a lot of conflicting stuff out there when we talk about fundamentals and how people actually are supposed to go out and learn fundamentals, and it can be confusing to pretty much new and even intermediate players. Fundamentals, get out there and be Naruto. Fundamentals, practice mode under a waterfall on a mountain. Fundamentals, read a book. How do you kind of reconcile these, different views, and kind of where do you guys personally think the truth of this lies?
For me, it would be simply a time devotion aspect. As long as you play a lot and you keep trying to comprehend the fundamentals, eventually, as long as you're not practicing what Huey called bad fundamentals, which you can be able to discern eventually you will learn how to do the basic of most basic things. But at the same time, it's better to find a mentor of some sort and just ask him to explain everything from the bottom up.
Okay, Huey?
Yeah, I think personally that to develop good fundamentals, one would need the most basic thing you could do is play a lot of games, if you're able to watch some of them back, see exactly where you make mistakes, try to figure out what you did wrong, try to figure out what would have won in this situation and what would have got you out, and then try to figure out something if I would have did this, would I have gotten a good combo on him instead of just getting out? Figuring out the different options you have in every situation and learning to analyze a certain situation that you're in, I feel really builds good fundamentals. And I also think reading about how other players think, their thought processes, and asking is also very helpful.
So you're pretty much advocating a mixture of kind of collaborating, playing, and kind of mentoring.
Yeah.
Okay. LordKnight?
I feel like in the end, it's honestly a waste of time to just be like, man, I need to work on my fundamentals, because if the best way to get good fundamentals is by playing the game and finding the things that are wrong with your play. Either if someone, say, tells you that you have bad fundamentals or something, that even though it means something, it also doesn't really mean anything at all, because you might not know exactly what to work on. So the best thing really to do is just play and try to fix your mistakes and get cleaner, because from there, your foundation for general play will just grow if you build on your mistakes specifically.
Okay, so basically we have kind of a more an integrated approach for this, and you have to be careful, what the criticisms that you're leveling or that others are leveling against yourself, and which the ones you act on, the ones you don't act on, you have to be careful about which ones you consider.
You should clarify, you should ask back what they mean by you have bad fundamentals. You read wrong, you mash, you can't bluff. Clarifying is useful in that thing.
Because honestly, the best things to work on after you're done playing are the first things that you remember that happened that were wrong while you were playing. Or at least that's what it is for me. Those are always, even before I watch my own matches or something, I already have a couple of ideas, or ideas is the wrong word, a couple of things that I remember from the match that didn't go so well or the way I wanted, or they did X thing that was really surprising or something, and that's already on my mind to work on, look at, fix, find out about.
Right. And how long would you kind of spend on kind of this process between looking at kind of looking at if it's information you lack, you look at the information, or say practice mode and either setting up the situation or dealing with a situation like that? How long do you kind of spend doing that?
However long it takes.
However long it takes? Okay.
However long it takes, yeah.
Exactly. I think until you feel satisfied that you comprehend the situation enough to be able to deal with it.
Okay. So I think what we are going to do next is, before we get into individual sections of fundamentals, I wanted to kind of talk about neutral, spacing, footsies, things like that come up in other videos. But before that, something that Dasabro brought up that I thought would be pretty useful when we got to the fundamentals episode is the basic mechanics of BlazBlue that no one understands at first. And the ones that I listed based off of what he said was Gatlings and cancels, defense mechanics, and throwing. So if you guys want to chime in on any of these, I think we'll begin with Dreiko. Like, what do you think about this kind of topic? You know, mechanics that nobody really gets at first. Think you can kind of clear the air on that?
I think it's, for me personally, BlazBlue was my first 2D fighting game that I took seriously. So those concepts are kind of natural to 2D fighting games for me. But if you're already an existing player of something like Street Fighter and Gatlings confuse you, they're basically the order with which you can do one move after the other. Certain moves can be done after certain other moves, while certain moves cannot be done. And memorizing which move can lead into which other move is extremely useful for block strings and confirms and all that kind of stuff. Now for throw reject miss, that's a very simple thing. You have the throw rejecting button, but if you press it more than once, the throw will become a throw reject miss, and you will be thrown. This system is in place to prevent people from mashing the throw button to escape grabs, and instead forcing them to react with a single button press. Which was the third one?
The third one was, well, you mentioned Gatlings and cancels. And
oh, yeah, okay. Cancels are basically inputting a specific move during the frames of the prior move. You input the move while the first move is ongoing, not after it ends. And if you input it as it's ongoing, the animation will become cancelled, and the animation of the special move will start. That's different from links, wherein you wait for the move to end completely, then you return to neutral, and then you input the next move.
Okay, good. Thank you for clearing that up. That was actually going to be my next question.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand the distinction between Gatlings and links and how to actually make use of their Gatlings and understand their move properties so they can work with them. LordKnight and Huey, do you guys have any thoughts about things that you don't think people kind of understand at first or they have big misconceptions about?
I think one of the things that a lot of outside players don't understand about BlazBlue is how exactly the throw reject miss system works. And people see that throws have 13 frame tech window? Yeah, 13 frame tech window and 7 frame startup, and it's like disgusting to them. Like, how could people even get thrown? But a lot of people didn't understand that there's actually like a second level mix up between the throws. So I think that's like a big thing, and I think that people don't realize that their characters sometimes have extra links that they normally don't have on Fatal Counter because it adds 2 frames of extra hit stun. So, for example, Bane can link
5B and 5C.
Yeah, he can do 5B, 5C, and then he can do 6A, 5A on Fatal Counter.
Yes.
Because he can't do it normally, but it's a link. And there's a couple other ones too, but a lot of people seem to forget that your moves become a little bit more plus so that you can possibly link stuff. So if you're trying to find a combo or such on your own, it's pretty helpful.
Okay, so basically get out there and look for those opportunities because that could actually pretty much help your damage. LordKnight, any thoughts on this?
I mean, I think another thing that you guys didn't talk about, as far as like fundamentals in BlazBlue that people are learning would go, is Okizeme and setplay. Some people don't think that even exists in the game, but it's a rather setplay heavy game. So it's really important to understand what it is and why it's important, because I'll still play even some intermediate. I guess intermediate players not so much, but when I play a beginner, oftentimes they'll say, knock me down with their combo, and then they'll just jump or something, jump or run away or something. I'm like, what are you doing? This is your chance. You knocked me down. Here's your chance. But now I'm just standing up and doing whatever I want again.
Okay, I know I know I've asked you this before, and I know you just answered Spirit Juice, but I gotta ask because it's being asked in chat right now. What exactly is set play? And for for Lychee, for example, I mean, set play, like the TLDR version that I was pretty much got out of it, both explanations, the one you gave me and then Spirit Juice, was to playing the way you're supposed to play to win.
No, that's incorrect. That's not what set play is. Set play, if Okizeme is your opponent getting up, that's literally what Okizeme is. Attacking the opponent that's getting up.
Right.
It's a general term. So set play
Wake up pressure.
Set play is the specific term for your plan for what the opponent is doing when they get up. Sorry. So it's your specific plan for what to do. Excuse me. What to do when the opponent gets up. So, for example, and a really easy example I can use from CS1 is Lychee versus Carl. So, as we all know, Lychee was knocked down, die shooting, go in CS1, right?
Yep.
So, against Carl could just roll out. So, for him, die shooting set play for him, you would have to end slightly out of the corner and do die shooting 3-8-2-3-3-3 input, so that Lychee was out of the corner and die shooting was going in. So he rolled out of die shooting, he'd just be in front of Lychee and you could punish. And then if he didn't roll, you could still do all sorts of like high-low, like air dash, jump C, land, 3C, like whatever you wanted. That is set play. Okizeme is just like, okay, I'm doing die shooting. Okay, that's Okizeme. That's the difference. Set play is very, very specific, and you're planning for the opponent's wake-up options and your answers to it.
So set play is more cerebral.
Set play is... Wait, what?
I have a specific example of that for Bang. It's when you do Ashura, and when you do micro dash 2A, that is gonna catch the backwards roll, while if you do neutral 2A, that will catch a quick get up. And unless they recover instantly, they will be blue beat into a small air combo for a bit of extra damage and ending in Okizeme. That's a Bang example of this one.
Okay, so LordKnight, the set play is more cerebral than say simply just saying Oki, right? Is that what I'm? Because I'm not sure I got all of that.
Okizeme is just general. Set play is specific.
Okay.
Set play is specific. That's the easiest way for me to say it. Set play is the specific plan that you use on an opponent's get up. Okizeme is just the opponent getting up and then attacking them. It's general.
Okay, so to leave our good listeners with something. So if they want to work on their set play, like should they be going to more general threads, like say a Lychee journal, or should they go to threads like the matchup threads?
I mean, in Lychee's case, I usually discuss set play in the matchup threads. Sometimes, usually after like a long time, when I feel like I really understand it and really know it for every character, I'll make a special thread just discussing set play.
Mm-hmm.
For other characters, I don't really know because most of the time I do my own research on other characters. I don't use Dustloop, so I wouldn't know for other characters.
Okay, so in general, if there were a resource, would you say it would make more sense to? I mean, you'll have to go and look it up anyways, but it would make more sense to look at matchup threads or general threads.
Honestly, I would say try to do your own research and watch a top player of your character and see what they do against specific characters when they knock them down. For some characters, it's really obvious. Like for Lychee, it's obvious they're doing like knockdown, Kokshi, or they might do Kokshi a special way or something. For other characters, it might not look so obvious. Like the Bang example might not really be obvious. You might be like, why is he doing that? So you might want to like mess around with it, or ask someone in a general thread and see what they say if anyone knows.
I think asking is the best route if you actually want to go to the thread and not look up videos. Just ask people, okay, how do you do Oki with this character?
I'm a real advocate for do it yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I personally agree, but I think we're good enough to be able to actually see the things that are relevant and important and applicable. Maybe if somebody doesn't exactly comprehend everything, he may not understand what he actually needs to do even if he sees the video, you know?
Yeah, it's mostly like if there's a community there. Like for bank players, their board is great, but let's say P4U, like no one posts in Misuse boards ever,
I see.
so it's not a good place to ask. No one.
Yeah.
I mean, I would answer if someone asked, but like no one really talks there a lot, so you might be asking a wall. I don't know.
That's true. If you guys find it difficult to to find information, just ask nicely, and no one's going to tell you why didn't you read the book, or you should have studied your text before class. So feel free to ask.
If you show enthusiasm and a genuine will to learn, I think everybody will help you enthusiastically as well.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up discussion to all the topics, the subtopics of fundamentals, and I'm going to let you guys kind of say what you want, because there's no way we're going to be able to talk extensively about everything. But just as I said, the topics before, we have neutral spacing, footsies, and poking. Feel free to talk about whatever you want on these. So I'm opening up the floor. What do you guys think about fundamentals and any of these specific topics? I think I'll ask Huey first, because he's kind of been quiet. So go ahead, Huey.
So you want me to just talk about how I feel about, could you repeat the question really quick?
Go ahead and talk about any sort of subtopics of fundamentals, neutral, spacing, things that you think that, we throw out these terms, but sometimes we don't well define them, and sometimes we don't talk about them extensively enough that people can really have an idea of go out and do something with them. So if you, feel free to talk about, these subtopics of fundamentals.
Okay. So first of all, I wanted to link this Sonic Hurricane. It has a really good guide, a Footsie. It's called the Footsie Guide. I linked it in the chat. I think it's a really, really good read. It gives really specific examples of different basic 2D fighting game fundamentals, and it uses ST for most of the examples, but a lot of the fundamentals can be applied to BlazBlue. The hard thing about it is you might need to figure out exactly how these different skills transfer over. So, in general, I would say that a specific area. What do you have trouble with, Stardemon?
What do I have trouble with? Oh, yeah. Obviously I have trouble with everything, but specifically today I had trouble with my neutral. So why don't you talk about neutral?
Okay, so as Lychee or just in general?
Give me the general stuff.
Okay. So in general, I would say first, when you're playing, you need to realize why am I getting hit? In neutral, are you just always losing? Are they crushing you? Are you hitting them? You need to figure out what's happening and try to figure out why you're getting hit. If you figure out that, hey, I'm getting hit because they're making good guesses, well, you can't do too much about that other than try to play it safer. But if you're just getting hit randomly and you don't even know why, I think the second thing to do would be to watch what they're doing rather than seeing how you're getting hit. Just see what they're doing up to the hit. And from there, I think that between looking at all of this, you should be able to figure out what they're doing at the very least. So it shouldn't be any surprise.
All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, how do you make those adjustments? Because you'll find out that maybe you're moving wrong, but you are not sure how to move in a way that doesn't commit to you getting hit. So do you decide to for example jump without dashing, or should you try to maneuver in a way that stays away from them, or should you try to go in? Because you can't kind of chicken out on all attempts to move.
Well, my answer for if you're playing someone you think you're better than and you're having a really hard time in neutral, it's not so much fundamentals, but I think you should play on the defense if you think you're way better than them and you can make force mistakes out of them. If that kind of thing happens, I don't think going in I don't think trying to figure out new ways to go in an important tournament match or something, in a very important high stress situation, I think you should go back, chill, analyze the situation. It shouldn't be to try to figure out different movement things. But if we're playing casuals or whatever, and you're trying to figure out what do I need to do to get past Tager's atomic collider or whatever, like it just keeps getting me. Maybe you should try. There's a whole bunch of different types of like movement options. You can instant air dash. You can jump once. You can double jump. If you're having trouble getting past projectiles, you might want to try doing a single jump preemptively and not committing to anything when you think they're going to do it, so that you can punish it for free. There's different ways. You can pretty much run on the ground. Using FD brake to stop yourself when you're pushing in closer on zoners is really important. But other than that, if it's actual movement problem, like if you're actually having trouble moving, you should go practice that in training mode. But if it's not that, you need to figure out why you're getting hit and think about the move that's hitting you and figure out what its properties are and think of the counter strategy to beat it.
Okay. Dreiko, how do you not get hit? How do you improve your neutral? How you don't get cursed?
The main way to not get hit is to always hit the opponent first.
That's good.
If you play a character that has, let's say, D nails, you can instantly reverse a situation into one where you have the momentum. And as long as your mix-up holds, you will never get hit. Of course, this isn't really realistic, and you can't give that advice to somebody and expect them to instantly be perfect. But in the end, if you can actually do that, that's one way. Now, for the human people who are actually playing the game, let's see. If you want to not get hit, you need to know how to block aggressively and to attack defensively. That's my way of putting fundamentals as far as blocking and attacking goes. You need to attack in a way that has a defense plan built into it. You need to have a specific idea of what you're going to do if everything gets blocked. You can't just sit there looking like a deer in headlights when everything gets blocked and you get poked. At the same time, when you defend, you need to be like a caged tiger and getting ready to jump out of the cage whenever you see the opponent whip something or become the deer in the headlights. You need to constantly be altering the mentality of attacking and defending according to the situation. And that can happen in a split of a second, so that's where reactions come in. And I think that's one fundamental that's not exactly an element of the game, but is very fundamental. You need to be able to react to stuff. And that gets improved the more you play and the more your reaction times sharpen. But just reacting to stuff and reacting properly and thinking fast, that's a very good fundamental to have for any fighting.
Okay. LordKnight, same question.
So
Neutral.
okay, neutral. I know it's neutral. It's I mean, the main thing about neutral is that it depends on your character and what character you're playing against, and then also how far away are you from the other character, and then also where you are on the screen. You need to take all of that into account when you're actually playing the game. So it's a really wide concept. I'm not going to say something like, oh, well, you need to attack, or you need to play really safe and stuff, because it just depends on once you really understand neutral, you understand that it depends on the situation, and it depends on matchup, and it depends on where you are.
Okay.
And knowing all of what you can do in those situations and what the opponent has in those situations, and knowing, okay, so if I was going to use an example, so Lychee's back to the corner against Ragna, so of course he's going to stand at X kind of range where he can deal with you moving. If you have 50 meter, you could super jump dive shooting, okay, you're good. If you don't have that meter and you have the staff, okay, you can stand there and wait for him to do something or try to move forward a little bit. he could do anything from just look at you because he's kind of intimidating by just standing at a certain distance away from the corner, to like YOLO Leonil dash TK Gauntlet for no fucking reason. But that is like not that likely. Him standing there is kind of likely, or him jumping in place is kind of likely. Stuff that isn't that risky. So it's mostly just looking at what's actually going on, where you are, what the opponent can do, and making a decision based off that.
So this is a pretty involved topic. I mean, I've gotten 3 similar but 3 slightly different answers. The basic questions we should be asking are, why am I getting hit? What do I have to avoid getting hit? And this could be either, game basics as in movement or character, character movement. And what are my options? Should I block? Should I use any of the basic game mechanics? Should I use any of my own normals? Do I understand my own normals? So,
I think the answer to this is matchup specific, character specific, and player specific. And you need to gauge your skill, you need to gauge your knowledge with the character, you need to gauge the matchup and pick the option applicable to the matchup. So you can't really have the specific answer, you need to examine it on the situation by situation basis.
Yeah, so when we talk about neutral, we're actually talking about a pretty involved topic.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's a massive topic. BlazBlue has like in CP 24 characters now.
Something like that.
How many possible matchups are there that you could like just talk about neutral and not anything else of character versus character? It's a really big topic.
Yeah, that's a lot to keep in your head, but it's I guess the best way to develop that is time and experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're gonna move on to blocking because it came up in conversation. How do you develop really good blocking skills? I mean, to me, I've always kind of narrowed it down to basically time and experience, but some people are like, well, you just learn it and then you react to that to that throw startup, Dasher Bro. But so how do you really work on your defense? Because again, you can be very more active and not put yourself in a situation to be pressured by, say, Rachel or Platinum or something like that, or do you just kind of gain the godlike spark skills, or do you dodge blocking like Noel and Hakumen? What do you do?
That too. It's also kind of character specific, but a general thing to keep in mind is that, well, step 1 is, of course, if you can avoid the situation by having really good neutral and not getting touched, then great. That doesn't happen in real life as much as I would like it to, so that involves knowing at least in, say, like BlazBlue, Persona, blah, 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 knowing the other character, knowing their Gatlings, knowing what's safe, what's not safe, knowing what the good general Gatlings and tactics the other character will do. And blocking is not just blocking, too. I mean, blocking itself is important because that's how you prevent yourself from taking damage on defense. But it's also knowing when to try to jump out, if you can backdash, if there's something you can IB and always do something about, if you can mash, if you can reversal, if you could go burst, counter assault, whatever. Those things are included as well, because in the end, it is actually quite difficult to block most, if not all, the characters if you're playing against someone who has a really high level of knowledge of their character and know how to attack really well. So taking the other defensive mechanics and, of course, also mashing, if you can, is really important to defense. I wouldn't say blocking, I would say defense. Specifically, defense. Because blocking, I used to block all day. Like way back when I played MBAC, I used to block all day, and I could block pretty well, and I would beat a lot of people, but then one specific player would just shit on me. And he never blocked. He always like mash DP, mash 2A or something, and then his mix-up was too good. I couldn't block his mix-ups all the time, and I would just die in like 2 minutes. Once I started mashing and doing other stuff, I started going more even with him and beating him.
So, so basically, no, you cannot block all day. You have to create situations where You don't have to block or be able to escape situations where it may be turning bad for you.
More the latter. It's more like you need to get out. But it shouldn't be urgent. Like, you shouldn't always be doing something. I mean, I guess if you play like the Hakumen or Noel or something, like, oh, okay, YOLO, let's just match for no fucking reason. But if you play like for us, like Lychee players, we only have one DP for now until we get our reversal next game. So we only have one DP. So once we DP, if we're wrong, that's it. We don't have a DP. So you need that defense, so that it's not like your crutch.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Huey, what do you think about the blocking topic?
Yeah, I think first of all, OK's right. I think it's better to refer to it as like defense. We were going to talk about how to improve one's defense, and like you said, avoiding having to block at all is probably one of the best defenses ever. Having good neutral. Being really patient is really important. Knowing your opponent's gatlings, cancels, knowing where they can chain into overhead and where they can chain into different lows. Like a specific example would be that certain characters in certain games have actually like instant overheads, just like really, really fast overheads, but on the other side, they have like a slow low. So knowing that and knowing where they can go into the overheads and lows makes it way easier to actually block those overheads and lows. I think that just getting comfortable holding down back is really important. Knowing when to mash is really good. Knowing that no matter what, sometimes you won't be able to block it all, and you're going to get hit, so you need to let it go. When you get hit, okay, like don't let it weigh you down. There's plenty of chances to still win the match. I think that's one big thing that mid-level players have like a problem with, is that once they get hit once against a really good player, they just allow the snowball to take over. And it is hard to stop.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and it is hard to stop. I'm not saying it's easy to stop, but not getting over it is really important. Having a clear mind about that kind of thing. I wouldn't let it like sink too much into your head. Oh man, I ate Hawkman's instant overhead jump B. He just did like 5,000 damage in the corner. It didn't cost him any meter. I'm waking up again. I'm in the exact same situation. What do I do? You don't want to think about it like that. Like that's the reality.
Yeah, now you're in your own head. That's the worst.
Yeah, that's the reality of the situation. But what you really need to do is try to think about things that you can do that would help you in the situation. Knowing what he can do is important too, but just keeping an open mind and being patient and looking for patterns in people's block strings and offense in general is also a really good thing to do too.
Okay, Dreiko, defense before we move on?
Okay, one very big part of blocking which was not mentioned so far is barrier blocking. A lot of times people, more newer players, are going to barrier everything, and that will sacrifice a chance of punishing something because the barrier will push the other guy out of range. A lot of times you need to know, this I want to barrier, this I do not want to barrier because I can punish it actually. Also, instant blocking has less pushback, and instant barrier blocking has even more pushback. And this is needed to be understood so that if you're actually trying to get out, you instant barrier, while if you're trying to punish something, you instant block without barrier. This is a bit technical because not everybody is that comfortable with instant blocking, but it's something that people need to understand, and they need to watch if the opponent is doing it and understand that, okay, he's instant barriering, I'm not going to be in range, so I'll adjust my block string based on how he's blocking. Outside of blocking, and for the entire subject of defense, I would say air dashing. Air dashing is extremely useful for getting out of bad situations, and people tend to delay the air dash a bit too much. They need to learn to instant air dash backwards in specific situations, where just jumping air dashing back would get them punished. That's a very useful trick.
But then they might develop the bad habit of, air backdashing, and then they get caught by air unblockable.
It shouldn't be a habit. It should be a situationally applied tactic for specific conditions, not a general do this when this happens thing. It should be way more specific than that.
When do you do that?
It depends on
Think of
matchups.
a situation where I would ever think, oh, I should instant air dash backwards out of this.
It depends on matchups, really. It depends if you're in a block string or if you're trying to bait something. Like with Bang, I have an extra air dash. So I will do back air dash, forward air dash into like fatal counter in the air for 6k because people are not expecting to dash back and forth. And that option is for characters with more air dashing like Taokata, Bang, Arakune. Not as much Arakune because his air dash is slow, but it's character specific again. I mean, Tiger can't do it at all. He doesn't have an air dash,
I think I personally also am having a hard time seeing where you would use this to escape someone's offense.
Because I play Tao. Like, I play Tao too. I would probably, like, mash backdash or 2B or something before I air dash back out of something.
Yeah.
That sounds like more like a pressure thing, like trick or something. Like, oh, let me air dash back, and I'll air dash in or something.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. It's unexpected, but it can work if you do it like in the specific moment that it's applicable. It's not a very common thing. I agree with that.
Yeah, I also think another thing that wasn't mentioned, sometimes when people will air dash at you or whatever, then they knock you to the corner. Like if they jump like at you and air dash at like the wrong height, if you think you can do it, you can run out of the corner too. There's situations where you can actually run out.
Oh, that's hard in this game though. That's
Yeah,
hard
it
to
is.
be.
It is. But there's times where you can.
Yeah.
It's not something that you just do reliably.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's there.
It
And then-
requires them to mess up for you to do it.
Not always, but like some people's combo enders.
It's a
Like,
good
if they-
tactic in some other games, to be honest.
Yeah.
It works in KOF, I think.
Also, I was going to mention that when I was at NEC last December, I played Soji for about like 30 games and got like destroyed or whatever. But
Or whatever.
yeah, or whatever. It doesn't matter. I watched Dora play him too, and he got destroyed just as bad. He like had some cool tricks and then died. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that when I played him, I noticed that he didn't have like the best like blocking ability at all, but he knew exactly when and where to get out. He knew what normals were really good to instant barrier to force my next Gatling to whiff and punish in that kind of situation. And his just overall defense was really good and was very hard to approach, I think. His neutral is also very good too. And then Arakune's offense, I can't tell if he's like the god or he's like the worst one at this point. I mean, Arakune is very strong, but he's obviously a really strong player, so I'm gonna give him credit there too.
Soji versus the world. Okay, so we're running low on time, and I think I definitely want to have time for questions tonight. So we might go over a little bit, but the one more topic I want to cover because I've heard this before, and I want to know if it has any credence, and I want to know if we can discuss it. So I heard that too many players don't know what proper footsies and poking are. What do you guys think of that? And do you have anything to say about footsies and poking?
I guess. I mean, I feel like because fundamentals are kind of vague, so people might just have a different idea of what something is for themselves. I mean, in the first place, BB footsies aren't even really footsies in the quote-unquote traditional sense. So that's not like a wrong thing to say, really.
So what do we have to kind of understand about it?
About what? Like neutral and BB or footsies? Like
For quote unquote, yeah, footsies. You know,
Footsies is like okay, because it's like a Street Fighter term. It's getting in that range. it's kind of playing a range game, depending on your character, I guess, but a range game where you're standing somewhere and you want them to with a move and you want to punish with another move, and it's usually a spot where you don't really get much off it. So in a classic Street Fighter example, it would be Ryu versus Ken, and Ryu is standing just in Ken's crouching medium kick range, and he takes a step back, and that move whiffs, and he takes a step forward and punishes it with his own crouching medium kick into a fireball. And that doesn't do a lot of damage, it doesn't knock down, doesn't get to really attack or anything, he just gets that little hit.
Okay.
That's footsie. That's pure, about as pure as footsies could get.
Okay. Huey?
My personal take on footsies. Once again, I kind of agree with, okay, the fundamental footsie term is more used for non-air dasher games like Street Fighter 4, but they definitely do exist. I can think of a very specific example in mind in terms of Blaze Blue, where in CS2, Bang versus Moo, we have a Moo player, his name's Core. He's really good. He does big damage off every hit, blah, 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 Moo's strong. Anyways, my specific example is that I was having a lot of trouble beating Moo's normals because they have such little, they had very little recovery and very big hitboxes. So to beat her 5C in neutral, which is like a massive poke, like the same size as like Jin's 5C, but I think it's like 10 frames, and it is lower.
Longer.
Yeah, it's longer and it's bigger and better, and at least way more damage. But that's not the point. Anyways, to beating that move straight up on the ground is really, really hard, and to actually punish him required me jumping preemptively before he does it, and doing a single jump forward so that I could get a falling jump C. And if I did it too slow, she'd recover, and then she'd go into 2C, which has head invincibility on frame 2 or 3, and it's really good anti-air. So it required a very specific call out, and it led into a combo, which was obviously good. So I think that's a specific example of BB footsies. And in general, I think that just consciously thinking about that kind of thing is the best way you can work on it.
Okay, Dreiko, any thoughts on this misconception or poking in general?
Footsies basically is a range and spacing game. In Street Fighter, it's more ground-based. While in Blaze Blue, you have jumps, you have air dashes, you have all those things, so they get introduced into the mix as well. But to the core, it's basically controlling the range and predicting how moves will occupy space and maneuvering around the moves in a way that benefits you.
You there?
Yep.
Oh, okay, I thought you got cut off. Okay, so it's good that we cleared up the misconceptions on that, because I know there is a lot of terminology in our community, and sometimes it just gets thrown out there, and it's good to clear up clear that up. All right, so before we field questions, I thought we were going to do something a little fun. We're going to go in circle for a little bit and say things you should give me a thing that you should never do, and then give me a thing that you should always be doing. We'll start with Dreiko.
Never mash till Dean wake up with bang.
Okay.
Something more general for something to do.
All right.
Take your time with blocking and observe the situation. You do not have to act first. Let the other person reveal how they play and then adjust. You do not have to reveal how you play first.
Okay. Huey, something you should never do and something you should always be doing.
I would say the most obvious thing is to never give up and always at least attempt to try to block or play it out. Don't give up. Things can happen if you're patient enough and you're willing to work. And something you should always try to do is you should always be paying attention to why you got hit in certain situations, and if there's something you could do that could turn it around so that you could possibly hit them, or that you could just escape or just block something instead.
Okay, LordKnight.
Something you should never do. If you play me, you should never mash DP. That'd be really nice. And then, if something you should always do, if you play me, you should always block and let me go nuts. That'd be really nice too. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna open this up to questions. Tonight's topic is fundamentals, obviously. So if you guys have any questions for our guests, we'll see if we can answer them. We might run a little over, even though we have 10 minutes. So I hope you guys don't mind that. So we're gonna go to like maybe 10, 10, 10, maybe. So
Sounds good.
if anyone has any questions, in the meantime, let's see. While people are formulating questions, give me more things that. Just feel free to blurt them out. Give me more things you should
Okay.
never do.
Never let me go for in Kazan.
No, that's alright.
Never,
I can handle that.
never let me all green you, please.
Never get air grabbed by Hawkman in CP.
Oh, that's
Whenever-
that's an actual one. That's a
Don't actually
that's
go
the first
actually-
real answer.
Never.
That's the first real answer we got. Never. I don't know. Just do whatever. Just do what's in your heart. Yeah, that's what you should always do. What's in your heart. I think that's the best. Because then if you're wrong, at least you went with your gut.
Never think you lost before you start playing.
No,
Oh.
sometimes you're done.
Okay,
I may be done, but thinking you're done is gonna make you play worse.
don't give up.
Never
Alright.
play against Toji in place.
Okay, here's a neat question I think we should field. Is mashing more important on net play or fundamentals? So
Whoever asked that fucking question needs to shut the fuck up. That is such a fake question. Are you kidding me? That's not a real question. I feel like Bricker Dave said something like that. That's not real. Oh, Metal Sonic said that in all caps. Is mashing more important on net play or fundamentals? What the real questions, please. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Holy crap.
Mashing is the lack of fundamentals. That's all.
Not necessarily, but mashing's great.
we are not all playing Virgil, according to
Yo,
Chris G.
I've been playing too much Marvel recently.
if you're on PS3 and you're playing Chris G, maybe.
Senior Taco.
What is some good advice for transitioning to offense when defending against an intense rushdown / corner rape? I.e. Platinum or Lychee, Rachel?
I think the best way to transition is first you need to recognize the end of the pressure, and then you need to recognize spots where the pressure can end, but it's a risk to get out. And then from there, you make the decision, either they did something where they're minus, but they're not going to get punished. Obviously, you should start. Or they did something where, they have really bad Gatlings afterwards, so you're they probably won't. They'll probably try to restart pressure. So basically, just try to figure out where they're going to restart pressure or where the pressure ends, and either go on offense or escape if you're afraid. That's
Yeah,
pretty much
that goes back to the defense discussion. Really, you need to know the character. You need to know where the bloodstring has a hole in it, and you need to just make use of that chance and get out. You need to have the knowledge to be able to tell when it's the time to get out. It's just an experience issue.
LordKnight?
What was the question?
What is good advice for transitioning to offense when defending against an intense rushdown / corner rape?
It really helps if you know the opponent's Gatlings and when specifically can they mix you up, and whether that part of the attack, because the first step is just pressure doesn't do anything. Pressure is just you blocking and then attacking, right? So you could just technically block that all day. You don't take any damage from that. It's the mix-ups like throw, high-low, whatever, that actually do damage, and that's difficult to block. So if you know the points where they can mix you up, and if you think there's something you can do about that, then that's the point where you can act to move out. Because the thing about because this is specifically about rushdown heavy characters, right? So the thing about most rushdown heavy characters is that their actual rushdown, not even thinking about the mix-up, most of the rushdown is just safe in the first place, or if something's unsafe, they have a way to make it safe. So you shouldn't worry so much about the rushdown unless it's something like using good old barrier defense to push out a character with not a lot of range or something.
Sorry, that term.
I know. That's why I said it.
Huey? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Barrier defense is a term described.
Barrier
how to beat the Makoto.
How to beat Makoto in CS2. Barrier defense.
Barrier defense.
Barrier defense. Even though it's legit, but barrier defense. So if that's an option, and you know that would work, okay. But if you stress too much about just blocking a lot, then, I mean, pretty much watch the final round, P4U grand final. Like, you can't stress out about blocking a lot against rushdown heavy characters.
So, okay, so basically the solution to this question is you have to pretty much... See, now I even forgot because I'm thinking about CS2 Makoto.
Essentially, the short answer is if you're playing, because the question is about rushdown heavy characters.
Right.
If you're playing against a rushdown heavy character, and you want to, because he said transition to defense from offense, as in
I think he wants his
how
turn
the
back.
fuck do I get out?
Yeah.
So wait for either some of these characters have strings that just end, like this is the end, and you should know what that is. That's research. Wait for the part where they could mix you up and try to do something like jump, backdash, DP, block properly, and maybe the move that they do on block is like the end of the pressure if you block it properly. Or barrier defense.
I'm having trouble picking for this one. I think we'll cover these last two, and that'll be it. The first one was by Visuta. In neutral, how do you balance making decisions off of feel/read versus visually reacting what your opponent does? So reading, guessing versus reacting.
Okay.
If
so,
something... go ahead.
Okay, my bad. This is neutral is stuff I think about the most because it's super important for my characters in all games. So again, it's going to be like I said earlier, a matchup based, distance based, position based decision. You you can't really react to what your opponent is going to do. So if you consider where they are, what character they're playing, and how far away are you from them, then you have a really good idea of what they could do logically. You know, like Ragna doing 5A half screen away from you when you're both mid-screen, that doesn't really do anything to you. He can't do anything off it. You can't really punish it for the most part, depending on who you are, I guess. So not a big deal. Or Tager doing full screen 5D and you're not magnetized and he's full screen away and you're both like touching the edges of the screen, it doesn't really do anything. But something like Noelle is a bad example, like Makoto, mid-screen, you're kind of far but not too far, and she does 3C, that is something you would have to think about if it goes under, say, your standard Poco choice, like your Ragna 5B, your Lychee 5B, your Jin, 5C. I like Jin's 5C, so I'll say that. Jin's 5C, like those kind of moves.
Okay, Dreiko?
I think a similar example with 3C's Bang versus Mew. Mew will do 6D, 2D, and cancel that into 236A, which is that upwards moving orb. And if you're not full screen but slightly closer to her, you can dash into 3C and it will almost always fatal counter her, and that's 5K meterless mid-screen. So that's a very good example of just knowing the specific range and what options you have, and just noticing, okay, he's doing the Stein placing. If he goes into the orb, I'll dash and do 3C. If he jumps, I'll just dash and block, or dash and jump and block, or something like that.
Okay, Huey?
I think that um, making decisions off like a read versus reacting to something, I think it depends on what kind of character it is, how good like their momentum-based play is. Like against Lychee, I would feel that I like it's really risky to just like make a read, so I would be a little less tempted to do something that was just a gut feeling, and I would, try to see if she did it and confirm it, rather than if I was fighting against, what's a good example? Ragnar, he is snowballing character, but his offense isn't very great. He has really good neutral, his normals are really awesome, but he's not really scary on wake up. So against him, if me taking a read leads into like 4K or 3K and I get the knockdown as Bang, who's a really heavy momentum character, I'll actually take it because I feel very comfortable. If it doesn't go well, I feel that I don't have to take a whole bunch of guesses to get out of his offense. And I think that in terms of setting the pace of the match, it just depends, like, on if you feel confident against like if you feel confident in a specific matchup, I would go for the reads. But if you don't, like, if you just don't like training mode and stuff, and you don't like have like a call player to play against, but you can punish this and that, I wouldn't take a big risk because you don't understand how that character works, and instead punish those things reactively that you can, and then make decisions from there.
I think another good aspect of this is the ability to discern patterns in your opponent's playstyle. If you play with an examinatory mind as you block and as you just see the game happen, and see certain specific patterns, and you can understand how to defeat them or to deal with them, that's an extremely useful skill. It's hard to develop, and I would say it's a fundamental to it's called like downloading your opponent or whatever. And if you actually have that read and if it's proven to be correct, then in that situation it would be slightly better to go for the Yomi than for the reaction or the plain spacing.
Okay, this is actually kind of a related question, but Elshino, I was asking, what's a good place to start learning weaknesses in the offense of a character you don't really understand yet? Character you're playing against. His example was Tao. He doesn't. He's not sure when he gets his turn with when Tao's finished.
I would say start using the character. Try to learn how to play the character, and you will instantly see where she stops, where her difficulties are, and you will just know, okay, this is the problem with this character's offense. So that's what I'm gonna take advantage of when I fight her.
Yeah, my own answer to that is if you don't understand the character, you literally have no conception of what they can do from what, so you're not going to know what Tao's Gatlings are, you're not going to know what she can do from where, you literally don't know what she can special cancel or jump cancel, so you're really in the dark over what, this character that you're playing against, so you kind of have to go and check that out. Otherwise, you're literally not going to know what they're capable of doing. If you play a specific player a lot, in time you may be able to kind of see what they like to do. But if they find that one new thing, it's going to throw you off and you'll be starting that whole process over. So a degree of study, like we've been mentioning in a lot of these questions tonight, really does involve you checking things out and giving a degree of study to the game, either by a lot of experimentation or a lot of experience or just plain looking things up. What do you guys think?
Oh, go ahead, Huey.
I was just gonna repeat what I said before in response to Star. I think research is okay, but the intuitive understanding of actually using the character and seeing the thing fail in front of your eyes is much more useful, and I think it's quicker too. That's it.
Huey?
What am I answering? Sorry,
how do you figure out when a character you're not familiar with, when does their really turn against you end and you can start, fighting back against them? For example, this guy doesn't know really when he gets his turn back against Tao because it seems like she goes on forever.
Well, if looking at frame data doesn't specifically give you like a solid answer, which for Tao, obviously, it's like the least helpful when you're like looking at her pressure and stuff. I would say the best thing you could do is observe other players, see where they're getting out, seeing why they got out, just understanding that if your options are similar to their character and if you can apply that to your character. And like the worst case scenario where, you can't have someone just tell you right away and you gotta figure it out, I would just watch that person play against someone else. If that person's beating up everyone else, at that point you might need to do some Google, some research, I don't know, watch Jordal's channel. I hear he's got a lot of videos. Pocket Asian, she has a lot of videos. There's got to be some Talakaga that's getting punished somewhere for it. So I think that'd be the best thing to do. Just figure out what other people are doing to get out, and seeing if you could apply those things to your character.
Okay. LordKnight, how do you get back?
Huey answered that very well. Except I'd probably do it the reverse order, and I would go watch top player of my character versus Talakaga first before I ask someone else, because I'm not sure they would know for my character.
Lost.
Yeah, but that match is... No, first of all, Puromete is godlike against Talakaga. He's unnaturally good against that character, and I was honestly impressed watching him play against EX Tao and just winning anyway. He's so good against that character. Shonen too. They're both really good against that character in EX. Galileo's really good against Tao. He was shitting on, what's his name? Kinji? He was beating Kinji 5-1, 6-1 in CP. So
I forgot what I was watching, but when I was watching Promete and Shonen, they were losing to Tao. They had to fight him 2 or 3 times. It was terrible. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean overall though, I don't know, because I saw Shonen at God's Garden, and he looked like he was playing like shit. So I just kind of shook that off. But at other events, he plays really well. And same with Puromete. Puromete did well, I think, at Gods, but he flubs up sometimes. But the most important thing is, even if they lose, it's not the situation where they're blocking against X character is not going to happen. So you could still, even if they lose the game, you can still see what they do properly and correctly in the match. Especially
Promete. That's why I love watching him. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything for tonight. We're sadly out of time. We can't take any more questions. I'd like to thank you guys for coming on. This is a particularly difficult topic to bring to 2 different audiences, and I think we actually cleared up a lot. So I appreciate you guys coming in, and I hope you guys can come on for future episodes. Thank you for everyone for showing up. If you have anything that you want to kind of add to the show or contribute, or any questions, feel free to post in the subthread. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit any of our guests up on Twitter. Our Twitters are right there. So check out the link that we linked, Sonic Hurricane, for I think that was for neutral, that was for poking in footsies.
Yeah, and you can apply it to plays for your set, figure it out. But also, I'd like to add, I gotta thank my sponsor, Scotty. I'm on the team, and then I gotta thank my Skype bros for watching and tuning in, and thanks for everybody for tuning in in general.
All right, so thank you everyone once more, and join us in another 2 weeks where we're going to be moving to advanced topics. So we're going to be moving on from fundamentals, and we're going to be moving on to more advanced topics, and hopefully from there, after we clear that up, we'll be getting into things like adaptation and metagames. So 3 more really super sound episodes, and then we'll be moving on to more specific content. So that's the general plan for the show. If anybody has any input, feel free again to post on the thread. And good night, everybody. Thank you for coming by.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.